Elara peeked at the sparkling sea. She loved watching the big, foamy waves crash against the shore. While other princesses learned to curtsy and sew tiny stitches, Elara dreamed of adventure. She wanted to explore every corner of the world, especially the mysteries hidden under the waves. One sunny afternoon, a big storm brewed. The wind howled and the rain poured down. Elara watched from her window as the waves grew bigger and bigger, like giant blue mountains. The next morning, when the sun peeked out again, Elara rushed to the beach. The sand was covered with shells and seaweed. And something else, something shiny and strange. It was a tiny, beautiful pirate ship. It was no bigger than her hand, with tiny wooden masts and sails made of shimmering silk. It looked like a toy, but it felt special, as if it had sailed through real storms. "Oh!" Elara gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. A magical ship! She carefully picked it up. As she held it, a soft, gentle hum filled the air. Suddenly, the ship began to glow. Little sparkles danced around it. Then, even more surprisingly, the tiny ship grew. It grew and grew until it was big enough for Elara to step inside. The mast was now tall, the sails unfurled, and a little anchor lay ready. Elara looked around. The beach was empty. No one else had seen the magical ship appear. Her heart thumped with excitement. This was it! Her grand adventure was beginning. She carefully stepped aboard, her royal slippers sinking slightly into the soft wooden deck. The ocean's call. As soon as Elara was on board, the ship began to bob gently. It seemed to want to go back to the sea. Elara grabbed the tiny steering wheel. It was just her size. She didn't know how to sail a ship, but she felt a strange pull, as if the ship knew exactly where it was going. The ship drifted away from the shore, moving faster and faster into the big, wide ocean. The sun shone brightly, making the water sparkle like diamonds. Elara giggled with delight. She was sailing, far away from lessons and stuffy castle rooms. Just as she was enjoying the salty breeze on her face, she heard a tiny tinkling laugh. "Hello there," a voice chirped. Elara looked around. Nothing. Then she looked down at the railing of the ship. Perched, there were 3 tiny, shimmering creatures. They had sparkling fins instead of legs, and their hair floated around them like seaweed. Their wings, made of water droplets, fluttered quickly. They were ocean fairies. One fairy had hair like golden kelp and eyes the color of the deepest sea. "I'm Coralia," she said, waving a tiny hand, "and these are my sisters, Marina and Shelly." Marina had hair like sea foam and was blowing tiny bubbles into the air. Shelly had hair like a pink seashell and was giggling, pointing at Elara's surprised face. "Found our magic ship." Elara was thrilled. "I'm Princess Elara, and I've always wanted to explore the ocean." "Then you've come to the right place," Shelly piped up, doing a little flip in the air. "We're going on an underwater journey." The Whispering Caves. The ocean fairies told Elara that the ship was a discovery vessel. It would take them to amazing places, both above and below the water. Coralia explained that their first stop was the Whispering Caves, a place where ancient sea creatures slept and the water held many secrets. As they sailed closer, the water changed color. It went from sparkling blue to a deep, mysterious green. Giant rock formations rose from the sea, creating narrow passages. The ship, guided by the fairies' soft hums, glided smoothly into a large, shadowy cave. Inside, the air was cool and damp. The only light came from glowing jellyfish that floated gently, illuminating the cave walls. Elara gasped. The walls weren't just rock. They were covered in ancient drawings. Pictures of giant fish, mermaids with long, flowing hair, and creatures she'd never seen before. "These tell stories," Marina whispered, her voice echoing softly. "Stories of the ocean's past." Elara traced a finger over a drawing of a smiling whale. "It's beautiful," she said. She felt a strange connection to the drawings, as if the cave was telling her its secrets. Suddenly, a deep rumbling sound filled the cave. Whoo, whoo. It made the water ripple. Don't worry, Shelly giggled. That's just the sleeping giants. Elara looked closely. In the deepest part of the cave, she could make out enormous shapes, like mountains of rock, but they seemed to breathe. They were ancient sleeping whales, so big they looked like part of the cave itself. The fairies explained that they had slept there for thousands of years, guarding the ocean's oldest tales. After exploring the quiet, echoing caves, the ship gently guided them back out into the sun. Elara felt a sense of wonder she'd never known. The ocean was so much more than just waves and fish. The Singing Reef. Their next destination was the Singing Reef. As they approached, Elara heard it, a beautiful, soft melody floating across the water. It sounded like 1,000 tiny bells, mixed with the gentle strumming of a harp. It's the choral, Coralia explained. When the sun shines just right and the currents flow gently, the reef sings. The ship began to sink, slowly, gently, deeper into the water. Elara didn't need to hold her breath. A magical air bubble surrounded the ship, keeping her safe and dry. She looked out, her eyes wide with amazement. They were surrounded by a rainbow of colors. Pink, purple, orange, and blue corals grew in fantastic shapes. Fish of every color imaginable darted in and out, like living jewels. And the singing! It was louder here, a symphony of the sea. Marina, Shelly, and Coralia danced around the ship, their fins shimmering in the sunlight that pierced the water. They pointed out tiny seahorses clinging to coral branches and shy clownfish peeking out from anemones. Elara saw a particularly bright blue fish swimming near a vibrant red coral. It looked like it was trying to sing along with the reef. "Look!" she exclaimed. Suddenly, a shadow fell over the reef. The singing stopped. The colorful fish zipped away, hiding in cracks and crevices. The water grew dim. "Oh no!" Coralia cried. "It's the grumpy giant squid!" A massive, shadowy shape emerged from the deeper waters. It had enormous eyes and long, twisting tentacles. It wasn't really grumpy, the fairies explained, just very sensitive to noise. The reef's beautiful singing sometimes bothered its naps. "We need to make it happy," Shelly whispered. Elara remembered something her grandmother used to say. "A little kindness can calm any storm." She thought for a moment. Then she had an idea. She looked at the singing reef. "Maybe we can sing a lullaby," she suggested. The fairies looked at each other, then back at Elara. "A lullaby for a giant squid?" Marina giggled. But Elara began to hum a soft, gentle tune her mother used to sing to her. It was quiet and soothing. The ocean fairies, understanding, joined in, their tiny voices blending with hers. They added soft clicks and bubbly sounds, mimicking the gentle currents. Slowly, the grumpy giant squid seemed to settle. Its enormous eyes blinked, and its tentacles unwound a little. It seemed to be listening. The shadow it cast lessened, and a faint light began to return to the reef. The fish cautiously peek out again. As the lullaby continued, the squid seemed to sigh, a giant whoosh of water. Then, it slowly turned and swam away, back into the deep, dark water. "You did it!" Coralia cheered. "Your song calmed it." The reef's singing slowly returned, at first a soft whisper, then growing into its full, beautiful melody. Elara felt a warmth spread through her. She hadn't just watched the ocean, she had helped it. After the singing reef, the ship rose back to the surface. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in fiery oranges and soft purples. "Now for the best part," Marina announced. "The starfish dance." As darkness fell, the ocean around them began to glow. Thousands of bioluminescent starfish emerged from the depths, floating to the surface. They pulsed with soft, magical light, blue, green, and gold. They drifted in gentle circles, creating a mesmerizing pattern on the water. The ocean fairies shimmering with their own light, joined the starfish. They spun and twirled, their tiny wings beating in rhythm with the gentle sway of the waves. Elara watched, completely captivated. She felt a sense of belonging she'd never felt in her grand castle. Here, on the wide open sea, surrounded by magic and wonder, she was truly happy. Coralia, Marina, and Shelly flew over to her. "Come on, Princess Elara," Coralia urged. "Join the dance!" Elara giggled. She carefully stepped onto the ship's deck, and the fairies showed her how to gently move her hands and sway her body, mimicking the currents and the graceful movements of the starfish. The magical air bubble around her extended, letting her feel the cool, starry night air. She danced with the ocean fairies under the vast starry sky, surrounded by the glowing starfish. Each pulse of light, each gentle sway of the water, felt like a secret message from the ocean. Back to shore, as the first hints of dawn painted the sky with soft pinks, the magic began to fade. The starfish slowly sank back into the depths, their lights dimming. The ocean fairies' glow softened. "It's time to go home, Princess Elara," Coralia said gently. Elara felt a pang of sadness. She didn't want the adventure to end. "Don't worry," Shelly chirped. "The ocean will always be here, and so will we." The tiny pirate ship, now feeling very much like her own, turned and began to sail back towards the shore. The castle, which had looked so tall and grand from her window, now seemed small and cozy. As the ship touched the sand, it began to shrink, slowly, slowly, until it was once again a tiny, beautiful toy, no bigger than her hand. The ocean fairy shimmered one last time, blowing her a kiss made of seafoam, and then disappeared into the morning mist. Elara carefully picked up the little pirate ship. It felt warm in her hand, filled with the memories of her incredible journey. She looked out at the vast ocean, no longer just a blue expanse, but a world teeming with magic, secrets, and singing reefs. She knew her adventure wasn't over. It had just begun. Every time she looked at the little pirate ship, she would remember the whispering caves, the singing reef, and the enchanting starfish dance. And she knew, deep in her heart, that the ocean fairies, her new friends, would be waiting for her next grand adventure. Princess Elara, the girl who dreamed of the sea, now knew its secrets and carried its magic wherever she went.